happy to be with you. And we are live on the internet today. And I'm so honored to have Jim White with me. Jim is a long-term Course in Miracles student, and he's been teaching the course, practicing the course for over 20 years. He founded a ministry, a nonprofit ministry, Love Communications Ministries, and he's been at the course since 2001. Wow, that's when the Twin Towers came down, for any of you that need to remember. That's beautiful. So,
Yes,
Jim,
sir.
thank you for joining me here. I know you've got a group coming up in a little while, but I'll try to watch my watch because I want you to have time to prepare for your Zoom study group. Thank you for coming on with me.
Okay, David. Thank you for having me, and thank you for renewing acquaintances with me. We've shared the stage a few times in the past, and boy, have you come far within yourself and without.
Yeah.
And it's just an honor to be here, my friend.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, I am so grateful. Jim sent me his book, and I think you've got a couple books, ACIM Fun Book, and then the book, which is called Earth School. There it is, Earth School.
New
And
book.
it's funny, I was looking at I've got a couple books. Out of all the books I've ever worked on my entire life, the two books, the book that you did and the book that I did, are identical sizes.
All right.
And mine's called The Mystical Teachings of Jesus.
Yes.
And people tell me, I don't really handle the books or anything, but people tell me that that's my number one seller of all the books I've written, and it's the identical. I mean, they're just like hand in glove here. They both work side by side. So maybe you can just share all the viewers here that are going live. And I think we've already got 34 people around the world that are on with us live with no precognition of what we're doing it. We're just doing it spontaneously. So maybe you can share a little bit about your journey with the course and your day-to-day practice with the course.
Sure. Well, my journey with the course started one Sunday morning in 2001. I turned on the TV and there was this very attractive lady, and she was very intelligent and dark, and her talk was very compelling. Her name was Marianne Anderson, and I'm sorry, Marianne Williamson. And she was pastor at Church of Today in Warren, Michigan. The short version is she was an extraordinary speaker, but what was so intriguing is she kept talking about this course in miracles. And I watched a few Sundays, and then I even went over to the church in Warren, Michigan. But to get to the point, I left that church, and my mom and sister lived together not far from the church. So I go over there and I'm telling them why I was out there attending Marianne Williamson at this church. And I told them about this course in miracles. And my sister says, "Oh, I got that book upstairs. You want to read it?" That's how I first knew it was a book. I thought it was like, I got to take this class one day. Really. And that was my introduction to A Course in Miracles. And I guess what's turning out to be a lifelong process. I was a fairly serious student of the Bible. I grew up in the Black Baptist Church. And yet when I discovered A Course in Miracles, I was ready for it. Like a lot of people I talk to and my students in my study groups and that, they've had a love-hate or at least a love-neutral experience with A Course. I remember one said, well, I didn't like it. I gave it to my ex. I thought they should read it. Hey, but you know about these kind of a love-hate relationship, but I have never put the book down since I picked it up. It's been a part of my life since 2001.
Yeah, that's amazing. What's interesting too, because back in those days, I think when you were picking it up for the first time, I was kind of below you geographically. I was down in Cincinnati, Ohio, at this peace house I have that was I would launch off on travels around the country and then later on the world. But I would take a trip up to visit my friends up in the Detroit area, and I went to Church
Yeah,
of Today, and I loved it. You know, I got to go to that church and experience all that was going on with the course. So, so you just went in and dove in, and I'm so grateful that you shared that you studied the Bible and came from that background, because I feel that the course is just carrying on the deep teachings of Jesus from 2000 years ago. You know, the red letters that I used to read in the Bible when I was growing up. I was raised Christian, and I was confirmed and went through the whole Bible classes in the summer.
yeah,
And I decided to write a book because I didn't see much going on between the Bible and the course. So I wrote a book. It was first called The Bible Course Companion. And then later on, people said, you know, nobody's going to know what that even means. Why don't you call it The Mystical Teachings of Jesus and
yeah.
put Jesus on the cover? Because, you know, that's our inspiration there. So I'm glad to have somebody here who's come through the Bible route, and then can probably, you still can reach people like I have the Spirit speaking through me when I go to churches, and I just let it come through in the way that it could be received when I go to a church. But how's your experience been with like family and relatives? How did it go? If have you even talked to them in about it, or do you just live it and demonstrate it and then see if they're curious? Jim, why are you so happy these days?
Well, and again, to clarify, you're asking, do how much do I share the course with friends and family?
Yeah.
First of all, let me preemptively go back. I haven't read your book, The Mystical Teachings of Jesus.
Jesus.
So,
Yeah.
just so you know, David, first on my list, all right, I got to catch up because I thought I heard you say you started reading Earth School, or at least browsing through it and handling it.
Yeah.
Um, Having said that, let me back up, I think, to what we were going to discuss in terms of the interrelationship between the Bible and A Course in Miracles. Uh, it was quite a powerful, particularly in hindsight, it was a powerful phenomenon to me because, and I'm sure you know this, when you first start doing A Course in Miracles, after coming out of the Bible, in many ways they seem to be contradictory. In the beginning, God created the heaven and earth. A Course in Miracles says God did not create this world. So right off the back, we're coming from seemingly different points of view. And then, just to bring in Gary and the Disappearance of the Universe, which, along with many books, have been instrumental to me. But Arton and Ursa, okay, and we talk about the Big Bang that created this universe, and maybe I don't have it right, but in the book, The Disappearance of the Universe kind of comes with maybe a bang could be the genesis of a fall. But if home is love, love doesn't start out with explosives.
That's right.
It kind of meanders into a blossoming.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, right away there were some contradictory things, but for me, the overall teaching is God is love. Written from the point of view of the Jesus's disciples and other writers of the Bible, maybe stuff got a little misinterpreted through some filters that were inherently there. God is love, but they put in exceptions. And A Course in Miracles says, regardless of appearances of exception, God is love and only operates from what can emanate from what it is.
Yeah.
Any predilections to the contrary must be your imagination. And kids, you got wild imagination.
Yeah, we know those apostles. They did their best.
Of the education and the correction, the
Yeah.
most gentle correction is to send you safely into an illusion that you think was your making, but was my making for a purpose. And that is to help you see where home is. Like the parable of the prodigal son, or relatively recently, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So you say, okay, this is a crazy, terrible dream. But you put your finger on it when you said dream. Because the Course says, at home in God, dreaming of exile. And boy, it's a lot more loving to have you dream about it than to have it be a reality. It's a point of view that the Course has helped me to develop. And I tell folks in my workshops and study groups and that, thank goodness this crazy world isn't real. But the Course does tell us at the very beginning what it is. It is an academic endeavor. It's educational. It is a required course. Long story short, what I've learned in 20 years is, thank God that this is a dream with a purpose. And that purpose is for my good. I can safely navigate it. Lesson 244, I am in danger nowhere in the world because I'm not here, and yet I'm pursuing an education here.
Yeah.
So now my motivation is to merely be a good student.
That's
It
beautiful.
happens, but thank goodness it's not real. It's merely educational.
Yeah.
And that's made a big difference. It's the old analogy, I can both be in the movie and yet now I'm a lucid dreamer because I can see myself playing parts and making choices, which are hopefully better choices than before, merely because I have a larger vision of what's involved, you see.
Yeah, yeah.
Am
I
I
think
talking too
it's
much?
what's so beautiful is that, I think as part of our education here, this loving education, uh, it brings a possibility to introduce some amazing, miraculous ideas. And then if we choose to really give our mind to them and put our attention to them and practice, amazing miracles happen. I was just thinking, let's suppose we've got some parents watching us right now and they have a teenager, we'll say, who's really depressed or bored with their education at high school or junior high. And then you have something, here comes Jim along, 20 years of ministry, and he comes up with Earth School. Now, this little book could be the perfect thing to give your teenager if they're distraught and they're asking for a better way. That's the main thing, that people have to be willing and say, Mom, Dad, I'm bored. I don't see the point of school or whatever. And then they read one little helpful book, and then you're just sharing 12 teachings, like the 12 apostles, 12 teachings from A Course in Miracles in Earth School. And that can change a life. That can change a whole direction, a whole perspective on the world.
Yes. And let me just say something about, yes, it's 12 teachings, but as the subtitle says, my 12 teachings. And what I let folks know in the preface to the book, I use the word my because these 12 teachings are not direct teachings from A Course in Miracles, although A Course in Miracles is frequently quoted. They're 12 teachings that are representative of what I've learned in 20 years of A Course in Miracles. And they represent, therefore, kind of a certain peak that I'm learning to live by. I know I'm not at a plateau, it's consistently more and more.
Yeah.
But as we've learned from the Course, learning is an illusion in itself. But it has, Holy Spirit always turns lemons into lemonade. He doesn't destroy the lemon. So one day I'm looking to find out that being omniscient, I have no need for learning. But it's a helpful tool to navigate this place when I'm in my classes.
Yeah.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do, but I manage it from spirit.
Yeah.
The principles are universal. As a matter of fact, one of the things that's happening to me in Love Communications Ministries is that we're continuing to teach A Course in Miracles per se, but we're also starting to develop a curricula called practical spirituality.
Mm.
And it's one that respectfully attempts to minimize religiosity or even spirituality.
Yeah.
But to be able to see God, or whatever you call it, in a practical way. To name something is to use a metaphor or simile. So we can use all of these names for that intelligence that runs the cosmos and at the same time grows your fingernails. Whatever you call that,
Yeah.
peace requires us to be in sync with it. The trusting part is that its nature is good. Its nature is love, like we've heard so many times and in so many ways. The problem is you can't dilute its nature. You have to either be with it or you'll be outside it. There's no duality versus non-duality or monism.
Yeah.
I'm learning to be one way, and if nothing else, it simplifies my life. I'm going to be loving. I'm going to be sweet. I'm going to be kind. Go on and do what you want to do, and it doesn't mean you can walk all over me. But Spirit shows me a lot more loving ways to handle things than how I used to do it before. And I'm grateful, man.
Well, I am so thrilled. We've got a few minutes because I promised you I'd give you time to practice for your Zoom group tonight. But let's just talk about the synchronicity today. I call you up and we have a lovely chat on the phone and you say, wow, 2 calls on the same day. I've been invited to do a webinar for the Foundation for Inner Peace, and you're calling me on the same day. And I said, well, why don't we go on and do a spontaneous live stream as a warm-up? So you're really warming up for tonight. You're warming up for the webinar. And then you were quoting this beautiful quote from the Course: infinite patience brings immediate results. Isn't that a lovely line? What a lovely idea that is. That's like so uplifting.
Yeah. One of the things that's helped me, that I got to the point where I say, okay, this devastating thing or this small irritation, they're all the same. Okay, right? Has occurred. But let's say it's a real big thing and my heart is broken, for example. I learned to say, if you really trust, what would you be doing if everything was okay? And get up and do that now.
Yeah.
It's a small step to get up and do something when your heart is breaking. And yet, it's the beginning of a process. You know, a lot of people, and particularly, I guess, spiritual people, religious people, think they can get things by thinking about them. And that's true, but it goes together with other things, like in the Bible where it says, faith without works is dead. Well, that's a metaphor because it is the process that starts with visualization that makes you take that step that starts the process to the manifestation. I used to be on ACIM Gather Radio. I don't know if you ever were on there. Okay, with Dove Fishman and that.
Oh,
And
yeah.
please remember Dove saying the primary goal of this whole platform of ACIM Gather Radio is to help induce trust. If you're a presenter on here, I want you to get used to getting yourself out of the way.
Yeah.
And so when I get this big call from the David Hoffmeister, I've been preparing a long time to talk to you on this way, buddy. So,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
And
beautiful.
as predicted, because of the process and the preparation and the infinite patience producing immediate results, all of a sudden here I am talking to, okay,
You're not, it's not just us.
works.
Yeah, it's not just us talking. There's currently 6,706 people in the room with us since we started. It's say hi to all your 6,000 friends.
That
And
is amazing.
it is
David.
amazing. This is a miracle.
Namaste.
Yeah. Well, it's so beautiful because, I feel your heart, and I was just got a strong prompt from Jesus to give you a call today. And I so appreciate you sending me your book. And I will, if you do get a hold of the mystical teachings of Jesus, which basically, I'll tell you how I did it. Jesus gave me like a bunch of questions for the index,
Yes.
table of contents. And then he said, now, here's the question. Now go to the Bible and pull out my answer from 2,000 years ago, and then go to the course and pull out what I have to say in addition.
Yeah.
And then, so I went through all the questions. I don't know, maybe there's 40 some questions, whatever. But basically, that's how I did it. And then let me know if you get a chance to see this, because I put a lot of books out there, but every time they tell me every year that's the #1 seller, because I think there's quite a few Jesus lovers on this planet.
When did you put this book out? What year?
Let me see. I'm going to have to look at it here.
Oh, boy.
First printed edition was 2016.
All right. And I'm definitely remiss in missing that. But yes, I will read it. But just for me to finish up, I guess I forgot to tell you about the dichotomy with the Course and the Bible. The more you get into, the more I got into the Course, the more the Bible scriptures came back to me in a whole new way. All those different parables of Jesus, I could see even more clearly. And so keeping in mind that parables are analogies for stuff that I can't even explain to you directly. Okay, I can't really convey that. So let me give you an example. There once was a shepherd, he had 100 sheep, or there was a son that left home and the prodigal, or this. It's so deep, you can't get your mind, but I can give you an approximation of it. It's only when you taste what I'm talking about for yourself, right, my friend? It's ineffable. It's hard to put into words, but it's so compelling that you're willing to give yourself over to a guidance like that. So.
Oh, it's beautiful. Well, your smile and your beautiful presence, and I've watched the way you're using your hands. You are a minister of God. You're lesson 154. I am among the ministers of God.
Yes.
So if you're watching us here, all 6,364 of you, we're just all among the ministers of God. We're here to shine the light of God and to demonstrate it. We teach mostly by demonstration. It's even beyond the words, beyond the actions. But it's been such a thrill having you on today, and
Thank you,
I'm
sir.
so grateful. And here you go, world. Now meet Jim White and Love Communication.
Hello.
Hello there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Certainly.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Hope to see you soon.